Oh, good God, the Cleveland Browns. What more could really be said about this cesspool of suck that is the Cleveland Browns organization? Oh, my Christ almighty. It's kind of funny in a way because 2014 seemed like a year that could be an indicator of better days ahead. You've got a new general manager in Ray Farmer, new head coach in Mike Penton. The team starts off 7-4. At one point in time, they're actually controlling their own destiny, both for a playoff spot and potentially winning the AFC North. It just wouldn't be the Browns if they didn't find a way to ultimately screw the pooch on this one. They waited far too long to give Manziel a shot, and then once he did get a shot, he was terrible. Josh Gordon comes back from his lengthy suspension, and he really doesn't do much. They start off 7-4, only to lose their last 5 games of the season, go 7-9, and the Cleveland Browns yet again miss the playoffs yet again and just are just such a mess in so many different areas. And what's the single biggest reason for this? The NFL draft. Because the Browns do what the Browns do. Now, yes, they've had hits in the past, like 2010 first round pick Joe Hayden. 2014 second round pick Joel Bitonio was an absolute stud. For all the talk that people had about Zach Martin as a guard for the Cowboys as a rookie in 2014, Bitonio was the far superior rookie as a guard, in my opinion, playing a more difficult position than what Zach Martin was. But it's just so many misses, and it's just more of what you would come to expect out of the Cleveland Browns. You look at their 2010-12 class, in particular, their 2 first-round picks. This is a theme. When they have multiple first-round picks, they seem to miss out on at least one of them, if not both of them, and one of them happens to be a quarterback. In 2007, going way back, they hit on Joe Thomas big time, but they missed badly on Brady Quinn. Now, 5 years later, they come back. You end up with the 3rd overall pick after trading up with Minnesota. You take Trent Richardson. We know how that panned out. At 22nd, they take Brandon Weeden. We know how that freaking panned out. And then you go right back again in 2014. When you have a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. on the board, when you desperately need wide receivers, and he's clearly one of the best players on the board, you decide to take a corner in Justin Gilbert instead because you're the Cleveland Browns and you're fucking incompetent, stupid-ass morons. And then instead of taking a guy like Teddy Bridgewater with that second first-round pick after you peel up from 26 to 22, you decide to gamble on good old Johnny Football, who seems to be more consumed with rolling $20 bills in bathrooms at Las Vegas clubs than learning the fucking playbook and preparing himself to be an NFL starting quarterback. This is the stupidity of the Cleveland Browns. Like, for example, the year after taking a Brandon Weeden in 2012, you bring in an offensive-minded head coach, Rod Chudzinski, who, of course, only lasted 1 year. So what do you do in that first round with a 6th overall pick? You take an edge rusher who can't rush the passer in Barkevius Mingo. That's the Browns. I mean, just the Browns in so many different ways. They don't take Julio Jones when they could have in 2011. They peel back a bunch, and they end up taking Phil Taylor. Again, that's the Browns. Missed on quarterback so many different times that it's hard to keep track of, but I do the best I can, whether it's Tim Couch or Brady Quinn or Brandon Weeden or maybe even now already Johnny Manziel. Bernie Kosar ain't walking through that door. Brian Sipe ain't walking through that door. Otto Graham most certainly ain't walking through that door. 1, because he's dead, and 2, if he was alive, he'd be smart enough to realize he wouldn't want anything to do with this situation. Just bad on so many different levels. I mean, you look at the offseason for the Browns. It's typical Browns. Josh Gordon gets his suspension from 2014 reduced because of a change in the drug policy. He sits there and believes himself to not have a problem. So what does he do, of course? He fails another fucking drug test because he's an idiot in denial. And now he'll probably miss all of 2015. Such a talented player and such an idiot. It's a shame. Same thing goes for Johnny Manziel, a talented player and a complete idiot. Again, I wish him luck on his rehab, something Josh Gordon really needs to consider entering and doing it seriously. But again, you just spent a first-round pick on a quarterback who was all of 5'11", with less than a great arm, with serious questions about him off the field. And after his rookie season, which was a pretty much complete and total bust, You're again potentially looking at quarterback because the guy ended up in rehab. You've got your general manager who's texting coaches on the field, even though it seems like he's taken the bullet for the owner, Jimmy Haslam. You've got your GMs being suspended for the first 4 games of the season. Just a fucking mess. And then you look at the Cleveland Browns and the moves that they made from a personnel standpoint in the offseason. You bring in guys like Dwayne Bowe and Brian Hartline and expect that to address your gaping needs at wide receiver. You just, what the fuck are they doing? You sign Randy Starks, that's not a bad move, but you bring in a guy like Josh McCown because he's such a big upgrade over Brian Hoyer at this point. I don't know. You let Atia Rubin go. You let Buster Screen go. You let Jabal Sheard go. You let Jordan Cameron go. And you really didn't effectively replace any of them, in my opinion. In my opinion, anyways. So I don't know. This is just more of the same shit for the Cleveland Browns. When you look at their draft needs, does it really fucking matter? I hate to be so jaded and cynical about the Cleveland Browns, but again, does it really fucking matter? They still, after all these years, still haven't got quarterback, right? They still need a fucking quarterback. We're talking about it in 2015 now. Still talking about them needing to address a quarterback, a year after they took one in the first round, which was 2 years after they had taken another one in the first round. How many times can one organization screw up a single position so many different times in so many different freaking ways? It's not the 29-year-old former minor league baseball player. It's the 21-year-old drug addict. Holy Christ. Until the Cleveland Browns get their situation ever resolved at quarterback, they're never going to do anything as an organization. Thankfully for Cleveland Browns fans, you also have the Cleveland Cavaliers, so you can root on LeBron James, because God knows you need it. What does this team really need to do outside of finding a quarterback answer one way or another, whether it's in-house or not, this offseason in the draft? They need to fortify up front on the defensive side of the ball. Their defense was bad last year. They need a nose tackle in a bad way. They need 5 technique ends in a bad way. I still think they need some help on the offensive line, namely at right tackle, so that way they can finally move Mitchell Schwartz inside to right guard, which is, I think, something they've wanted to do the past 2 years now. They need to find a tight end to replace Jordan Cameron, because, again, they really don't have one. I don't know why they would just let Jordan Cameron go, because they had so many other great options in-house, right? This is a fucking Browns. In terms of their draft philosophy, does it really fucking matter? The Browns, and they're probably screwed up again, like they do so many times. You're sitting there with the 12th and 19th pick in the first round. You've got a lot of picks. This is a draft where the Browns should explore getting aggressive. They should either get aggressive in terms of moving up, or they should get aggressive in terms of moving down. I expect it to be a draft that is devoted early to the trenches on both sides of the ball, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But again, if they are seriously intending upon rolling into next season with their top 3 wide receivers being Brian Hartline, Dwayne Bowe, and Andrew Hawkins, this organization has serious problems. They're in a perfect position at 12, 19, and even with their second round pick to be able to address wide receiver once, if not twice. And if they fail to do so again, just like they failed to do so in 2014, then the Browns will finish even worse than 7-9 in 2015. I guarantee that.